What's up, guys? Welcome back. Let's go over my outpatient internship. My hours for the clinic is Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I work from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. with a 1 hour lunch from 2 to 3. But usually we get off around 1, so I get like a 2-hour lunch. And then Tuesday, Thursday, I work from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. So that's only a half day. So I mean, from the sounds of it, it sounds like my hours are pretty chill, and they are. I get to sleep in every day, but when I get home, it's already 7 and always dark outside. As you guys may know, for outpatient clinics, you see a lot more patients a day. On average, we see about 15 to 20 patients in a full working day, as opposed to the 4 to 5 patients I was seeing at the inpatient rehab hospital. So that was a big change. That was the main change I had to kind of adjust and get used to, because I definitely was not used to treating patients so fast paced and just kind of seeing one every 15 minutes and just managing my time better and knowing when I should do the manual therapy, when I could get that one-on-one time with my patient, and then they can be taken through most of their exercises by the PT tech. And because it is about 3 weeks in, so I am definitely getting the hang of it. So what kind of patients do I see at my clinic? We see a lot of athletes and high school athletes. There's lacrosse players, volleyball players, football players, soccer players, a lot of post-op patients, ACL repair, total knee replacements, total hip replacements for the older patients. So for some of the athletes, I had to adjust to kind of the sports intervention, because once they're higher level, when they're like a couple months into their rehab, they're doing like some high intensity drills and like agility ladder. And for a lot of the younger patients, the athletes, we have them do like RDLs and unilateral RDLs, the Romanian deadlifts, using weights, using dumbbells, really to help with that hip hinge. It's very important to have hip mobility to assist with everyday movements like squatting, and also it really emphasizes the glutes and hamstring strength. Unilateral, focusing one-legged, you're working on the balance, the stability of the knee, and overall core stabilization as well. Those are kind of some of the stuff that I usually don't see people do in outpatient. And we do a lot of using the TheraBands, even when they're doing the unilateral RDLs, tie it around above their knee, kind of give them a little pull into adduction, so they have to resist it, using their abductors to activate their hip abductors and just work on overall hip strength, hip mobility, which is a common theme with a lot of these athletes, to get the strength of your hips and get that mobility to help with your performance as well. That side of the PT, sports specific PT, I'm not as familiar with, so I'm definitely trying to learn a lot more and trying to just gain everything I can. And just, it's very interesting. And as for the manual therapy side of it, I definitely was a little rusty with my manual techniques in the beginning, like joint mobilizations, my hand placement was a little off, and even my own body mechanics, I was kind of rounding my back, and getting into it took a little more practice than I thought, because coming from the hospital, we didn't do any manual. We did transfers and stuff like that. So it was a good change, getting my manual skills back. Now I just kind of want to go over some general tips I found very helpful that I learned from my internship so far, and it's to always address posture. On the evaluations, definitely seeing what they present with. If they're having like rounded shoulders, forehead posture, causing like their pec minor to be tight, pulling it shoulders forward, causing their shoulder pain. Once we kind of release the pec minor and get their scapula moving correctly, they might be able to reach overhead a little better without that pain in the front. And as for like their pelvis, if they're anteriorly tilted at the pelvis, that could cause their hamstrings to feel tight because it's pulled long, but it's not really tight. It's because of the position of their pelvis, so making it seem like their hamstring is tight. So in reality, they should be strengthening glutes and hamstrings to pull that pelvis back, instead of stretching the hamstrings, and probably stretch out the front like their hip flexors. And also when I do evals, I learned to always to look at, if they're coming in for hip problems, always look at their the body part above and below, so their low back, even their thoracic spine, down to their knees and sometimes even their ankles. So you basically have to look at the body as a whole and see what may be causing their problems, because if we're not really fixing the problem and we're just treating what they come with, treating kind of their symptoms may go away for a little bit, but the symptoms are going to come back if we don't fix the problem. Like say for their ankles, if they're lacking mobility in their ankles, their whole posture to be thrown off, and then they're going to compensate by putting more strain on their low back, causing their back pain. If a patient has trouble reaching overhead, there's different reasons that could be causing a problem. Say their serratus anterior muscle is weak, they're not able to properly upward rotate the scapula and externally rotate to really get that scapula moving correctly to bring your arm overhead. Also, they could be lacking in their thoracic extension, because I believe we need 15 degrees thoracic extension to assist with that reaching arm overhead. That's basically our job, treating the movement dysfunction. And as for documentation, they do it electronically on WebPT. The daily notes aren't bad at all. For subjective, you just say something real quick about what they come in, what they're complaining of. Objective, if you take any measurements, and then assessments, just talk about any limitations in their range of motions, any improvements in their strength, in their function. So it takes about 5 minutes to do a daily note, and as for the initial eval, it takes me about like at least 40 minutes, because they go through a long process and there's a lot of clicking, and the objective section is a lot of scrolling down, trying to find the right body part to input the range of motion, input the strength. So that takes a little longer, so I'm still getting used to it. Alright guys, so I think that will be it for now, because as I mentioned before, last video, I'm going to start doing more daily vlogs and daily clips of my my days, telling you guys more about my experiences and just kind of what happened during the clinic that day, probably during the drive in the car, or just tell it as it comes. And before I forget, for any of you guys that have Snapchat, make sure to follow Snap SPT on Snapchat. It's run by physical therapy students, I believe, but it's pretty good, especially if you're already in PT school. They kind of just review some random things, not random, but like they go over different things like muscle innervation, action, and then kind of go through different pathologies, and good review every day, different topics. So pretty cool. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.